Best gold I've seen in the box in years. This is definitely going to get us closer to that 2,000-ounce gold.
You're not going to believe what just went down on the icy edge of the Bering Sea. In a place where fortune usually comes at the cost of blood, fuel, and broken machinery, Shawn Pomrenke just flipped the script in the most unexpected way. His brand new $395,000 dredge, freshly assembled, untested under real field pressure and taking on its first ever night shift, was expected to ease into operations quietly. But what followed was nothing short of insane. As darkness swallowed the shoreline and the temperature dropped, the engines roared to life. The crew thought they were simply running a systems check, maybe shaking out a few glitches before sunrise. But the ground beneath them had other plans. Within hours, the sluices began lighting up with color, thick streaks of gold running through the mats, like someone had cracked open the Earth's hidden vault. What was supposed to be a routine debut suddenly turned into a gold-charged frenzy. The crew scrambled, thinking it was a fluke, until pan after pan confirmed it wasn't luck at all. The inland Bering Sea site, long dismissed by skeptics, had just delivered a payload that could rewrite everything people thought they knew about offshore gold. And this madness all happened on night one. If this is how Shawn's dredge performs right out of the gate, imagine what's waiting on night 2, 3, and beyond. Before we dig any deeper into this unbelievable strike, make sure you hit subscribe, because what's coming next could blow this discovery wide open. The clock barely struck 7 p.m. when Shawn Pomrenke's crew rolled the new $395,000 dredge into position at the inland Bering Sea site. The sun had long disappeared behind low-hanging clouds, leaving the shoreline cloaked in icy darkness. The first night was supposed to be a trial run, a calm, methodical evening to familiarize everyone with the equipment. Hoses were flushed, mats were tightened, engines inspected, and the lights tested. Shawn himself circled the setup, clipboard in hand, marking notes with a careful eye. This was night one, and expectations were deliberately low. No one wanted a disaster under the black Arctic sky. By 7:45 p.m., the dredge hummed steadily, pumping cold riverbed material into the sluice boxes. The crew was focused, methodical, keeping chatter to a minimum. Every noise of the engine, every clatter of gravel across the mats, seemed magnified in the night. The team was more concerned with avoiding mistakes than finding gold. Everyone knew the first night with brand new gear could go sideways fast. But then something unexpected happened. At 8:12 p.m., a deckhand, squinting under the harsh beam of his headlamp, froze. He bent closer to the sluice mat and murmured, "Shawn, you're going to want to see this." The crew rushed over, expecting maybe a rock stuck in the mat or a reflection from the lights. But instead, they saw gold streaks, glittering brightly against the wet black gravel. Thin at first, almost like flecks in a painting, but unmistakable. At 8:20 p.m., Shawn instructed the team to clean out the sluice mat and pan the material carefully. Each pan revealed the same glittering gold, streak after streak. At that moment, the air shifted. The usual banter and jokes vanished, replaced by stunned silence. No one shouted, no one cheered. It was as if everyone was holding their breath, waiting for someone to call it a mistake. But there was no mistake. This was the real thing. By 9 p.m., the crew had repeated the process multiple times. Even the most skeptical miners admitted the results were undeniable. "I've been mining these waters for years," muttered one veteran crewman, "and I've never seen it hit this hard, this fast." A sense of disbelief mingled with excitement. the kind of energy that makes your heart pound and your hands tremble simultaneously. Shawn nodded, trying to stay calm, but even he felt a rush of adrenaline. Night 1 was supposed to be a quiet test, and yet here they were, gold flowing faster than anyone could have imagined. As the sluice boxes continued to fill, Shawn's mind raced. Could this be a rich surface channel left untouched for decades, or had they just stumbled upon something much deeper, a concentrated pocket buried for centuries beneath the Arctic sediment? The night was young, but the crew already sensed that this was more than just a lucky strike. It was the beginning of something monumental. By 10:15 p.m., shadows from the distant tree line seemed to shift unnaturally. A faint glimmer of headlights appeared on the far horizon. Another crew? Scouting? The team exchanged uneasy glances. If news got out about this discovery, it could ignite a scramble no one was ready for. Shawn signaled for quiet and instructed everyone to stay alert, all while the dredge continued to hum and gold kept appearing in the mats. Little did they know, as Night 1 came to a close, that this was just the first chapter. The gold flow would only intensify, and buried beneath the riverbed lay something man-made, metallic, and mysterious that no one could have anticipated. What looked like a normal first night of testing had transformed into the opening act of an extraordinary discovery that would challenge everything they thought about the inland Bering Sea gold fields. Next, the crew would need to dig deeper, confront the unexpected, and prepare for rivals watching from the shadows. The tension was just beginning, and the real story was about to unfold. By 10:30 p.m., the initial shock of finding gold on the first night began to give way to questions, debates, and whispers. The crew, still huddled around the sluice boxes under the harsh glare of headlamps, tried to make sense of what was happening. One miner, scratching his beard nervously, suggested, "It's probably just surface-level leftovers, old erosion deposits that somehow got caught in the mat." He waved a pan filled with sparkling gold streaks toward Shawn. But others weren't convinced. Another crewman shook his head, leaning over the sluice. "Look at this. The volume's too dense, too consistent. This isn't just leftovers. It's a pocket, maybe an untouched channel." The excitement was palpable, but so was the tension. Everyone could feel the weight of possibility pressing down on them. They were standing on ground that might hold centuries of untouched gold, and it was impossible to know what else lay beneath. Shawn, sensing the mix of disbelief and speculation, called for deeper cuts into the pay layer. By 11:05 p.m., the dredge had shifted into a more aggressive mode. Hoses strained, gravel surged through the sluices, and the mats rattled with the sound of running gold. The crew repeated pan after pan. Each test confirmed the same thing. The concentration wasn't dropping off. If anything, it was getting richer the deeper they went. By 11:45 p.m., a quiet awe had settled over the team. Crew members exchanged glances. Some whispered theories about ancient river channels, long forgotten by explorers or miners centuries ago. One veteran miner muttered, "Maybe someone tried to work this ground before and never finished. Or maybe this place was hidden for a reason." Another piped up, half joking, "Hidden? Like treasure buried by pirates?" Laughter rippled briefly, but the mood remained tense. Every glittering streak reminded them how unusual this was for Night 1 operations. The suspense grew as Shawn scanned the horizon. The inland Bering Sea site was remote, yet the mind can't help but imagine rivals, observers, or even local prospectors noticing the activity. Every crunch of gravel, every hum of the dredge seemed amplified under the moonless sky. There was a growing sense that this discovery wasn't just a lucky strike. It might be something far larger, buried deeper than anyone had expected. By midnight, the gold was flowing steadily. But a new worry started creeping in. What else lay beneath the concentrated layer? Could there be hidden obstacles, man-made objects, or dangerous debris tucked into the same channel as the gold? The team sensed this was only the beginning of an unfolding story. Shawn knew they would need to proceed carefully, but also boldly, because whatever was hidden below could change everything they thought about this site. The night ended, with the crew exhausted but electrified, the dredge still humming, and the mystery of the hidden channel growing stronger. Little did they know, someone or something was already watching, and the next shift would bring more surprises than any of them could have imagined. By 12:15 a.m., the inland Bering Sea site had settled into a strange rhythm. The dredge hummed steadily, sluices ran full, and pans continued to reveal thick streaks of gold. Yet, amid the excitement, a quiet tension had started creeping across the crew. Nobody spoke much anymore. The usual chatter was replaced by whispered calculations and nervous glances toward the tree line. They all knew something extraordinary was happening. But in these waters, extraordinary often attracted attention. At 12:45 a.m., a flicker of light caught Shawn's eye on the horizon. At first, he thought it was a reflection off the ice or a stray flashlight from a distant worker. But as the minutes passed, two distinct headlights appeared, cutting through the darkness like watchful eyes. The vehicle moved slowly, following the edge of the site, not entering the path of the dredge, but clearly observing the operation. One of the crew muttered, "They're just passing by, probably a fisherman." But Shawn wasn't convinced. He raised a finger to his lips and signaled everyone to stay low and quiet. "Noise covers us," he whispered, "but don't give them a reason to know what's happening." Even the whine of the pumps and the clatter of gravel became a cloak against prying eyes. Every movement, every sound had to be measured. By 1:05 a.m., the vehicle had lingered long enough to make everyone uneasy. It slowed as if analyzing the site, headlights scanning over, the sluice boxes, the dredge, and the men working under headlamps. Crew members instinctively froze in place, hands hovering over tools. No one spoke. Even breathing felt loud. The vehicle didn't approach any closer. Instead, it circled slowly, then finally turned and disappeared into the dark, leaving a lingering sense that they'd been observed and that whoever was out there already knew something big was happening. The brief intrusion sent a ripple through the team. One miner whispered, "They'll be back, and next time they won't just be passing by." Shawn nodded grimly. Word travels fast in the Bering, and this inland site, which was supposed to be a quiet first-night test, could no longer remain a secret. Every glittering streak of gold now carried the weight of potential rivals, hidden eyes, and challenges yet unseen. By 1:30 a.m., the crew had to make a choice: continue working in near silence, risking more attention, or shut down for the night and preserve their secret. But the gold wasn't slowing. Every pan and mat reminded them that this discovery couldn't wait. Whatever lay ahead, more gold, deeper channels, or hidden obstacles, they would have to face it with caution, strategy, and nerves of steel. Little did they know, the night's events were only the prelude. Beneath the riverbed lay something unexpected, metallic and man-made, lodged in the richest part of the channel. And when it surfaced, it would raise more questions than answers, something the crew was entirely unprepared for. It was 2:15 a.m. when the night seemed to reach a fragile calm. The dredge had been humming steadily for hours, sluice boxes overflowing with gold, and the crew had started to settle into a rhythm, hearts still pounding from the earlier visitor who had circled the site. Shawn Pomrenke wiped his brow, squinting at the gauges, convinced that if anything went wrong now, it could be catastrophic. But just as the crew began whispering about slowing the pace to maintain secrecy, the dredge shuddered violently. The sudden jolt nearly sent deckhand Mikey tumbling over the side. "Whoa! That's not normal," he shouted, grabbing the railing for balance. The suction hose screamed under the pressure, thrumming with a heavy, unnatural resistance. The pumps groaned as though straining against a weight far beyond ordinary gravel or clay. The rhythmic pounding of the dredge had transformed into a warning. Something dense and unyielding was lodged somewhere deep in the channel. Shawn immediately called for a shutdown at 2:18 a.m., his voice cutting through the tension. "Everyone stay calm. We don't touch anything until we know what we're dealing with. This dredge is expensive, and I'm not risking it on a jammed rock." Crew members nodded, but the unease was visible in their eyes. Sweat mixed with frost on their faces, and the usual hum of the machinery felt like a heartbeat in the silent night. They approached the intake carefully, headlamps casting narrow beams over the suction hose and sluice box. Every movement seemed louder than it should be. The clinking of gravel, the hiss of water, even the occasional cough echoed ominously in the cold air. Mikey leaned closer, brushing away sediment, and that's when the room went silent again. A metallic glint caught his eye. Not reflective water, not a stray nugget, something sharp, angular, and unnatural buried in the slurry. He froze, hand hovering over the hose. "Shawn, you need to see this," he whispered, his voice barely audible. Shawn hurried over, heart racing. Headlamp beams danced over the trapped object. It wasn't rock, it wasn't bedrock. It looked man-made, something placed intentionally, long ago, and hidden beneath layers of gravel and gold-rich dirt. The crew circled, eyes wide in disbelief. Some muttered about old prospecting equipment, while others whispered about buried crates or even treasure caches left by people long gone. But whatever it was, the gold seemed clustered right around it, as if the object had created a natural trap or channel over centuries. The sluice boxes continued to hum, but the gold coming up was now mixed with the mystery object, making every pan a potential clue, and every moment a new risk. By 2:50 a.m., Shawn had made a decision. They couldn't pull the dredge entirely out of the channel without risking losing the gold, but leaving the object lodged could damage the expensive equipment. Tension mounted like a physical weight. Each second felt stretched. Crew members whispered advice, debated methods, but Shawn knew he had to stay calm. One wrong move, and the first night miracle could turn into a financial disaster. The metallic glint was now more than a curiosity. It was a mystery that demanded answers. The object could be centuries old, buried by previous miners, or a remnant of some hidden engineering deep in the inland channel. Whatever it was, it had changed everything about this site. The gold was richer near it, but it was also more dangerous. And as the team prepared to carefully extract or navigate around it, a new thought crept into everyone's mind. This discovery might attract attention far beyond their immediate sight. The rival crews, the curious onlookers, and anyone monitoring the Bering Sea channels could be drawn here the moment word spread. Shawn knew that night two would be more intense, not just because of gold, but because of what they'd just uncovered. Little did the crew know, this metallic object was only the beginning. Beneath it and around it lay secrets that could rewrite what they thought about the inland Bering Sea gold channels. Gold, mystery, and danger were now intertwined, and every decision they made over the next few hours would carry enormous consequences. It was 3:10 a.m., deep into the first night of operations, when Shawn Pomrenke and his crew faced the unexpected challenge of the metallic obstruction lodged in the dredge's intake. The cold had settled in layers across the inland Bering Sea site, frosting hoses and mats with delicate crystals, yet the crew's adrenaline kept them warm. Headlamps cut through the darkness, illuminating gravel, sluice boxes, and the powerful new dredge that had already yielded thousands in gold in just a few hours. Every clink and clatter of tools on rock or sediment sounded like a drumbeat of suspense in the icy night. Shawn signaled the team to approach cautiously, and the miners gathered around with shovels, pry bars, and small scrapers. One by one, they began to remove layers of compacted gravel and pay dirt around the lodged object. At first, it seemed like an ordinary rock jam, common, frustrating, but manageable. But as the material shifted and fell away, the shape became unmistakably unnatural. Angular edges caught the light in a way no river-worn stone ever would, and smooth surfaces reflected the headlamps like metal polished by centuries. By 3:25 a.m., the crew had unearthed enough to confirm suspicions. One of the miners, wide-eyed and whispering, pointed at the object. "Shawn, that's not just a rock. This looks man-made. Some kind of container, or maybe a piece of old machinery. Could be decades or even centuries old." The idea sent a ripple of awe through the team. The metallic shape wasn't just lodged randomly. It was surrounded by thick, rich gold deposits, as if the treasure itself had been funneled and trapped against this buried object. Shawn stepped closer, inspecting the object carefully. "Stay calm," he instructed firmly. "No loud voices. No sudden moves. We don't know what this is or how stable it is, and there could be more down there." His crew nodded, tension written across their frost-chapped faces. Every miner's senses were on high alert. Every creak of machinery, every slap of gravel sounded exaggerated in the cold, still night. The gold concentration near the object was incredible. Some sluice mats overflowed with small nuggets, glittering streaks, and even dust, finer than flour. Yet the very proximity of the object added a dangerous thrill. They could see the potential fortune and the risk intertwined in the same channel. One wrong move, Shawn knew, and they could damage equipment, or worse, dislodge the object in a way that made recovery impossible. Outside, the silence of the Arctic night was misleading. Faint rustlings from the distant tree line reminded them that eyes were always watching. Word travels fast in these remote gold channels, and any unusual activity could draw rival crews, local prospectors, or even opportunistic scavengers. The crew felt a growing sense of isolation and urgency. Whatever this object was, it had changed the stakes. This wasn't just another gold streak. This was the beginning of something far bigger. By 3:50 a.m., Shawn gathered his crew in a brief huddle. "Night one's been incredible, but don't forget, there's more down there, richer layers, deeper channels, and now, this object. We move carefully, or we risk losing it all." Every miner nodded in agreement, a mix of fear and excitement coursing through them. As the night wore on, they realized that this discovery had layered the inland Bering Sea site with secrets, danger, and opportunity. Gold wasn't the only prize. The metallic object could hold historical significance, a hidden treasure, or even clues to something larger buried beneath centuries of gravel and silt. The crew cleaned up the immediate area, securing the dredge and sluices for the next shift. Their minds raced with questions. How deep does this channel go? What is the origin of the object? Could there be more hidden nearby? And most importantly, who else might already be aware of their find? Shawn knew that Night 2 would be decisive. The gold, the object, and the unknown dangers below would test every ounce of their skill, patience, and courage. This was no longer just mining. It was a high-stakes game of discovery, secrecy, and survival, and the inland Bering Sea held more secrets than anyone could have imagined.